see it here. 1 second. We are live. Hello and welcome everyone to the Wildescast. It is an honor and a pleasure to greet you all. It's been a couple of weeks, actually. We had the holiday of Shavuot, a lot of other things going on, and but we're coming back strong, figuratively and literally, with an amazing guest. I just want to thank Dmitriy Salita for agreeing to be interviewed on this podcast. Welcome, Dmitry.
How you doing, Rabbi?
Great.
Nice to be on with you.
Oh, it's a pleasure and an honor. So for those of you who don't know, Dmitry is a hero to many people. He's one of the most famous Jewish boxers of all time. He is born in the Ukraine, and he learned his trade at Starrett City Boxing under the tutelage of Jimmy O'Farrell. Did I pronounce Jimmy's last name right?
Jimmy O'Farrell. Known as Jimmy O in the
Jimmy
boxing
O.
circles.
Yeah, I've heard of him. I'm not even in the boxing circles, and I heard of him. He's big. Okay, we're both eating here a little, so please excuse us. So Dmitry has an unbelievable record. He was undefeated in his first 24 fights. He stands with
29 fights.
29. All right.
Close enough.
I'm going to have to talk to my people. By the way, I want to thank our good friend Ellen Zeitlin for bringing us together. I'll blame the 24 discrepancy on Ellen. Okay, so 29 fights, undefeated 29 fights. Man, you must have felt like you were probably on such a high. I mean, he stands with a record of 35 wins, 2 losses, and a draw with 18 knockouts. Dmitry was the star of the 2007 documentary called Orthodox Stance, which showed how one can be an observant Jew and a pro boxer at the same time. And as if that weren't enough, Dmitry started a new chapter in his life, which we're going to hear about, called Salita Productions, which he is now the president. He's got a whole crew of boxers now, including Clarice Shields. Did I pronounce her name properly?
It's Salita Promotions, and the fighter's name is Clarissa Shields.
Salita Promotions, and her name is, what's her first name?
Her first name is Clarissa. Her last name is Shields.
Clarissa Shields, seen by many as one of the best female boxers in the world alive today. And while many would think that boxing and observing Judaism are antithetical, Dmitry has always really believed, and this is what I found very special, that they go hand in hand. But if it's okay, Dmitry, I sort of the elephant in the room here is that before we get into your personal life, and I'm really excited about that, you know, given all the anti-Semitism that's going on, and it seems like we're living in times where we could use more Jewish fighters in New York and maybe even throughout the world. As one of the few Jews who could knock somebody out with one punch, what is your reaction to all these videos?
What's going on is really terrible. You know, my family immigrated here from the Soviet Union in 1991, and one of the main reasons why we came here is to escape anti-Semitism and persecution, and for us to be able to be proud, open Jews in the United States of America. And these days, what's happening is really terrible, and it hurts me on many different levels. And you know, I think that we as a community have to stick together, no matter denomination, religious, not religious, Orthodox, etc. It kind of goes to show that the tragic events that happened 80 years ago and prior to that, you know, unfortunately can repeat themselves. And you know, we have to make sure that they don't. And this is really just what's going on is horrific and mind-boggling in many ways. But it is what it is.
Are you surprised, Dmitry, what's happening, given what happened in Israel? Do you see the two of these two things linked? Or is this just an excuse? In other words, Hamas attacks Israel with rockets. They claim that they had some, you know, basis to do this. This is ridiculous. And Israel fires back, and then Jews get beaten up in New York City. I mean, does one thing have anything to do with the next?
Well, I think it's just a cause, just an excuse for that to happen. There has to be an inner foundation for you to go outside and to assault someone just because of who they are, or where they come from, their religion, their creed. So in my opinion, this is happening because there's a foundation for that to happen with certain individuals that choose to take upon violence and unlawful behavior to attack the Jewish community.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think? Please.
And also in media and in pop culture, there's a lot of terrible things happening, and there's an assault on Judaism and on Jews, and that really hurts me as well. So.
And you think the assault on Jews happening in the media and pop culture, you think that's spilling over? You think that's having an effect? What we're seeing on the streets?
What do you think, Rabbi?
I do. I 100% think, and I appreciate you asking me, but I'm curious, because I think one of the things that Judaism teaches is the power of words, and you can't keep saying things and unfairly critiquing Israel, basically not expecting Israel to defend herself, and then not have that some sort of impact with someone else. People listen. People pay attention to what's happening on social media, and they see Israel vilified again and again and again in the press. I think it's going to have a big impact.
Well, yeah, Israel's vilified, and also it's in a way connected to Judaism and to Jewish message and to Jews and to what they stand for. So unfortunately, I feel the two are connected, and if they wouldn't be connected, then you wouldn't see this kind of violence and acceptance of what's going on in the streets and in big cities. There's rallies, there's anti-Jewish rallies calling for death of women and children and just terrible things. It's really painful and really terrible to see. And for someone who's escaped that to come to the United States, which I believe is the best country in the world, and has the all the ingredients and possibilities for someone to make the most of themselves, no matter of who they are. So to see something like this going on is really painful and terrible.
I appreciate your perspective from somebody coming from another country where those rights are not protected, and how grateful you are to America. Why do you think it's being accepted? Why do you think there's so much silence? Very few political officials have come out, decrying this.
Well, I think that the Jewish community as a whole, because the Jewish community has faced anti-Semitism for so many years, I think that we've been conditioned and facing things. I think I lost you, Rabbi.
Yeah, we just lost your volume there also. Continue. Just say over what you just said, if you don't mind.
So I think, in my opinion, the Jewish community has faced anti-Semitism for millennia, for centuries, over and over again in modern times and in past times, and we've been conditioned to to be quiet about our problems, to be quiet about our issues, because usually there is a repercussion as a result of it. So. I think that culturally, maybe some of that is we see some of that in our, in our culture. I think that with that, Jewish people have been able to, whatever community they go to, they've been able to make something of themselves and become prosperous and successful. Even with the limitations, talking about past times. So I feel that as a community, sometimes we're maybe, don't speak as loudly as we should about certain things. But I do have to say that over this recent conflict, I think that more people, just regular folks, have gotten kind of fed up with this injustice, and I'm talking about it, in an open way. So, hopefully, good things will happen, and the good Lord will help us, guide us in the right direction.
Amen. And you're obviously in favor, it sounds, of people speaking out and not being silent.
I think when you get slapped and it's not just, and when someone takes something away from you and it's against the law, you should talk about it. The law of the land protects every citizen, every individual, no matter who they are, where they come from. So just as, the Jewish people should be protected just like every other citizen or living person in the United States. So I think that we deserve the liberty and the equality of everybody else.
And let me, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
The security and the confidence of every citizen in the United States matters. Certainly, Jews are an unknown minority because, most of the Jews are fit in and no one knows that they're Jewish. And
let me ask you a question as a boxer now. Okay, what would you suggest? This is going to sound ridiculous, Dmitry, but I just leaned over to take my my tripod that I use to hold the light and my camera. I have a second one.
Don't hit me.
No, I'm not going to touch you, man.
Okay.
I would not touch you. How many knockouts did you have? 18 knockouts? I'm not going near you. My question to you, though, is I'm walking around New York City with this because I got into I just wrote a blog about this discussion with my boys. I have 3 sons and a daughter.
Wow.
And I told my son, he was about to get on the train to go up to the Heights where he goes to Yeshiva University. And I said to him, I need you to take something. I didn't tell him to take his yarmulke off. I said, you should wear your yarmulke proud.
Yeah.
But if you're going to wear your yarmulke, you need to have some way of defending yourself. He used to be on the tennis team. So I said, go take your tennis racket. He said, Dad, this looks ridiculous. I'm not walking through the streets of Manhattan with a tennis racket. So I said, well, then I don't want you wearing a yarmulke. If you're not going to have something to protect yourself, you're not trained to fight. He's a pretty strong kid. He's 21. But I'm walking around with this because I don't want to take this off. The last time I had to take a yarmulke off was in France when I was there. And I was like, I'm not doing that in New York City. What do you recommend? Keep our yarmulkes on. We're trying to get the police to help out, and protect more, obviously. But
it's pretty terrible that you feel this way. I mean, the question of whether you should wear yarmulke or not is not for me. It's for your rabbi. It's not for me to say to say something like that one way or the other. It's really unfortunate that people don't feel safe in New York City, which is like one of the biggest Jewish diasporas outside of Israel. I think your question says it all.
From a Jewish perspective, let me just make it clear. You don't have to wear a kippah. You need to have your head covered according to Jewish tradition. So I told my son, put the cap on. But it bothers me. I want to wear my MGE t-shirt. I want to wear the t-shirt that says Israel here. But I want to feel safe. Do you recommend people taking like a Jewish defense or any kind of like Krav Maga?
I think defense, and that is always good. During times of peace and during times of conflict, that's always a great art to know for your mind and for your body. And I think that we should all, when I talk, I also talk to myself. We should all strengthen our belief and our strength of being united, of knowing that we're under God, and knowing that the right thing to do is the right thing to do. Beautiful. So, Rabbi, you're asking me questions. I'm not at liberty. You're Rabbi. I'm
giving you boxing questions. You're giving me rabbi answers. By the way, I appreciate it. You gave me like a. We should believe.
Rabbi, the other thing is that
connected.
you said you have a son 21 years old. I thought you were 28, 29 yourself.
I have an older son who's 24.
Oh my God! Wow! You look quite young.
Thank you. Well,
you do some right.
I'm trying to keep in shape during COVID. My boys are big fans of yours.
Thank you.
100%. So let's get into your life a little. Boxing is a dangerous sport.
No,
we know. You look like you're doing okay, thank God. But I'm curious, what was your parents' reaction?
So, I started boxing at Star City Boxing Club, which was an African American gym, and Jimmy O'Farrell, although the name sounds Irish, was an older black man that took tremendous care of me and was a father figure in my life.
Wow.
So my family immigrated to the United States in 1991. I started boxing in 1995, my exposure to hip hop music, to hip hop culture, and to the African American community, really, as a as a Soviet kid, 4 years in the country. So learning English, learning culture, learning music, really came to a large extent, obviously from being in school, but also every day from 5 to 8 being in Star City Boxing Club. So I know that, and it resonated on me. And one of the reasons why I wore Star of David on my trunks and was so, outspoken during my career was because being in Star City Boxing Club, being around that culture had an effect on me. And had an effect that when somebody, when it's important to be proud in a healthy way. So I wanted to do that for myself as I moved up the ranks throughout my career, even when I was an amateur, actually. So how did my parents feel about it? Well, at the age of 14, my mother became ill with breast cancer, and boxing at that time gave me a place of solace, a place of comfort and focus, and kept me away from negativity. So besides it being a dangerous sport in my life, it kind of served as something that was very healthy. And my relationship with Jimmy helped throughout that time. So before I turned pro, my father asked me, "Is this really what you want to do?" And I said yes. And before I turned pro, I was number one in the country, and I won the Golden Gloves, and I won many amateur boxing tournaments. So it's what I wanted to do at that stage of my life, and thank God it worked out well for me.
Wow. It's interesting.
Willie Pep, great fighter Willie Pep from like the 1900s used to say, "He who hits and runs today will live to see another day." So I try to slip and slide.
Well, that's a beautiful story, and what I appreciate about your journey is not just your father's support. He saw that you really wanted to do this, but your connection with the African American community sounds very, very positive. And I'm just wondering, whether or not you've done any work or can do any work to help maybe repair some of the breaches that exist between the Jewish and African American communities. You speak so glowingly. It's a bit of a rarity. I don't know if you realize, and I appreciate it. I think it's great.
What is a bit of a rarity?
Somebody who's so Jewishly identified and is so comfortable in the African American community.
Okay, that's probably true. I mean, I grew up in it, and my religious experience happened as I was in Star City Boxing Club, as I was around that environment, around that culture, and the two very interesting forces intertwined in my life. I feel very blessed to be able to see certain situations and experience certain things, especially with Jimmy O being so close to me.
Yeah.
And being in the neighborhood and around certain people and around certain situations. And only later on in my life, I realized that someone from my background and, somebody wearing a yarmulke or whatever would probably not have a chance to see these situations in such an intimate way over and over again. And I feel very blessed that I had that tremendous learning experience.
That's wonderful.
And growing up, Jimmy O was more than a trainer to me. He was my mentor. He was really a very special person in my life. And he used to, so after I'd go home from the gym, many days he'd call me and he'd give me lessons about boxing, and then they would go on, they would stretch on into life. And when I was a teenager, I didn't really understand it, or maybe I just understood on a basic level. And I was a promoter, being in business, dealing with different kinds of people. Many of the things that he said kind of like open up and make so much sense now, and feel really blessed and grateful that I have those lessons that he prepared me for many of the things that I'm experiencing today.
That's amazing. It's really beautiful to see. I mean, you realize how helpful you could be in trying to, I'm going back to this because there are some rifts in our different communities that have been exposed during COVID, Black Lives Matter protests, and some Jewish people feeling that those protests included some pro-Palestinian, anti-Semitic kind of elements. I just think it's that organic relationship that you developed with your mentor, with your teacher, is very, very powerful and very instructional for all of us. Tell us a little about the 24 victories.
29.
Oh my God, I keep doing that.
Rabbi,
I'm so happy. I'm so happy this interview is not in person, because it would have just turned into another knockout probably.
Never.
Your
Rabbi.
string of 29 victories.
Although you look pretty fit to get in the ring, I gotta say you look pretty fit, Rabbi.
I mean,
let me say this: if I was a guy walking on the street wanting to pick on a Jew, I don't think I'd pick you.
That's very kind. Tell that to my brother, because he was always picking on me. Did that add a lot of pressure being undefeated?
So I a lot of pressure to a lot of pressure.
It's like a lot of pressure not to lose. Oh my God, you're just going. You're on this trajectory, this winning, streak.
So I got involved with Chabad Lubavitch when I was 14 years old, and slowly but surely started to progress in my level of observance and my level of Judaism. And the rabbi that through whom I became observant religious is Rabbi Zalman Lieberov, who's the head of Chabad of Flatbush. And I was going to the U.S. Championships when I was 18 years old, which were held in Gulfport, Mississippi. And before I went to this tournament, I asked my rabbi to give me a blessing that I should win. Mm-hmm. And the rabbi suggested that I follow the old Chabad custom of writing a letter to the Rebbe through the custom of Igros Kodesh, which is the letters that the Rebbe wrote previously. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I did it. And the answer that I got was that you'll be successful in what you do and will have influence through your work, but try to do your work, but do your work according to Torah and mitzvahs. So my Rabbi Zalman said, this means for you that you shouldn't box on Shabbos. Mm. And at that point in time, I still wasn't fully Shabbos observant, still wasn't kosher, still was on my way, on my journey. But I decided that it was the right step for me. And national tournaments you fight every day of the week. And if you make it to the finals, which they're on Saturday afternoon. And when I arrived to Gulf of Mississippi, I told USA Boxing that I wouldn't be able to box in the finals if I make it, because I'm an observant Jew, etc. They said, okay, you'll be disqualified. But I won, and I got to the finals. In the semifinals, I beat somebody that was a very good boxer. I was interviewed by the local paper, or actually by a writer whose name is Dylan Hernandez, who now is a writer for the LA Times.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
But he was a local writer. Mm-hmm. He's actually the head writer he covers Dodgers. Uh-huh. And he said, Dmitry, what a great upset. What can we expect from you in the finals? And I said, I won't be able to box because it's at 2:00 on Saturday afternoon, and I observed the Sabbath, and USA Boxing disqualified me. So I'm not fighting on Saturday. So Dylan said, let me see what I could do. And he spoke to USA Boxing, and they changed my time, and I was able to fight after Shabbos.
Whoa, that's huge.
And I just
you're the Sandy Koufax of boxing.
I just spoke with Dylan a couple of months ago, and I told him. So every time most times that I speak to rabbis and I give these talks, I always mention Dylan because God used him in such a great vehicle to be able to help me so I tell him that you don't know the country, man. Not only for your writing. So
that's
anyway,
incredible.
So
Dmitry, that's a huge Kiddush Hashem. That's incredible. Kol hakavod to you.
Thank you. So then I won the U.S. Championships, and that was in the year 2000. And then in 2001, I won the Golden Gloves, the New York City Golden Gloves, and I got the Outstanding Boxer Award out of all the weight classes.
Wow.
And so also my fight was originally scheduled for Friday, but they changed it to Thursday. It was at Madison Square Garden, and thank God I won. Then I turned pro. So I was undefeated for 2 years, about 3 years actually, as an amateur. That doesn't count in the 29-0 record. Mm-hmm. And, so then I turned pro, and I signed with Top Rank, one of the best promoters in boxing still today, Bob Barham. Mm-hmm.
Wait, I think you turned your...
Yeah.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I felt... So going through my pro career, and then obviously, so at that point, when fighting amateur boxing, no one really knows who you are. You don't really get a lot of press. You're just doing it for the love of the game, for the love of the sport. For an opportunity to turn pro and to make some of yourself. Then when I turned pro, you start getting these Sports Illustrated, the Daily News, this, that, and you realize it is a lot of pressure. But I always felt, reference back that letter that I got, and always felt connected, and always felt that it was my mission to accomplish and to do my best, and try to do my best.
Wow.
And sometimes it was easier, sometimes it was very difficult. But
did you ever feel bad knocking someone out? You're such a sensitive guy,
How do you know that I'm a sensitive guy?
Well, first of all,
tell?
I don't know. I feel it even through the screen here. You seem like a very, very thoughtful, sensitive person. But you're a Torah observant Jew. That develops sensitivity. Observing the mitzvah, putting on tefillin, it makes us more sensitive and attuned to other people's feelings. I know it's the sport. I know it's a professional thing, but just curious. I don't know if that's an unfair question.
No, it's. I think that when you get in a ring, your job is to win. And sometimes when you land a punch, that punch leads to a knockout. There was 1 or 2 times when I was fighting, I think I dropped the guy and I knocked him down a couple of times, and I felt the referee should stop the fight. And I waved to the referee, you should stop it, And,
wow.
and he said no. And he said, keep fighting. And I just, what can you do? And then you just do what you got to do. So he stopped it the next round. But I don't, at least on a conscious level, I just wanted to win and
sure,
and do what I wanted to, and do what I needed to do inside the ring.
Wow.
But Jimmy O did tell me sometimes that he wished that I was a little bit meaner.
Well, when you I love this language. When you dropped that guy and you told the ref, maybe we should stop the fight, you had a little sense that
no, no. It's not a Gemara discussion. It's not like maybe you should stop ref. Maybe you should stop the fight.
Right.
No, you just wait. You said no. When you hit the guy and he's wobbling, and you point to the ref like ref.
Right.
You say through your mouthpiece and through your
right.
through your difficult breath, ref. He just says keep going.
Oh my gosh. Was the guy okay in the end?
No, he was okay. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I don't know how you do that, man. Let me ask you this. You wear a yarmulke, you're observant, you represent fighters of every race and religion. First of all, tell us a little about the company, because not everybody knows about the company you started. And I'm curious how you knew these fighters would trust you, because you're very identified as a religious observant Jew. And I'm wondering if that had did that attract other fighters to you? Did that create a problem, or was it just sort of neutral?
The way I learned Judaism, as an observant Jew, you have to be the best you can be in whatever talent God gave you. So I feel that my talent is boxing. First it was as a fighter, now it's in the business of boxing. I'm very blessed to do what I do because I love the sport of boxing and I love the business of boxing. And even though sometimes there are challenges, I still, even though, sometimes they're a little difficult, overall, from a worldview, I love it. And I'm very grateful to be involved with it. So I don't feel that me wearing a yarmulke or having certain restrictions and also certain responsibilities in terms of conducting business and my outlook on the possibility and the potential of the different athletes that I represent. I feel that it only helps me, and I represent some of the best fighters in the world. I would say not in a bragging way, but just when people say, like, sometimes people say you can't be a religious Jew and do this and do that. I would say that we're probably the fastest growing promotional company.
Wow. Wow.
In the last, I don't know, years. I have fighters that many of the top promoters have gone after and are going after, and through some we work, through some we have some battles outside the ring. But I don't think that overall, obviously, there are situations sometimes where certain people feel a certain way about me because of who I am. Sometimes it happens, but we do good and fair business, and the fighters that work with us for the better, some of the best fighters in the world.
And is
have
there
gone
any
to the
is there
finish.
is there
Mhm.
anything about being observant or religious that you think has given you an edge above your competitors, perhaps?
Uh, I feel very responsible about what I do. I
Mhm.
give it my all the business effort and energy and time, and I think that I think outside the box. The WBC, which is the World Boxing Council, one of the
Mhm.
major ranking organizations. Oops, sorry.
That's okay.
It's wait. Are you with me?
Yeah, I'm with you. It looks like you could use one of these stands,
You're right.
but
I
I
could use one of these things.
but I can't lend you mine because I'm using it to protect myself right now, though.
Can you see me? Because I can't see you.
All I see is black,
Yeah,
but
there we go.
I
I
can
see
hear
you.
you perfectly, though.
I see you, but I don't.
Maybe I think your video's gone off
Yeah,
somehow.
and I'm not sure why. And I Cam.
Oh, something just came up, but not your face. I mean, we can continue this way if we
Yeah,
have to, but it would be
sure.
unfortunate. Scott, if there's any way, Scott is helping us with our podcast here. If there's any way to advise Dmitry to get his video back on. Oh, wait, something just up. There we go.
Yeah, I don't.
Looks like
I can't control it on this end.
okay.
I see.
Oh,
I see the cam button.
Yeah, if you just take the cam button and try to select your camera again.
So it's off, and it's on. Front camera, back camera. No, let's see, back camera. No,
oh, something happened.
front camera.
I see a very nice floor. Oh, there you are.
There we go. Okay.
Excellent. You're back.
All right.
No, so we were just talking about, I'll tell you the reason I asked you this question. I've had a lot of guests on, very, very successful people in different areas of life. For example, Senator Joseph Lieberman was a guest on this podcast. And he likes to say, and he wrote this in his book, he wrote a book about Shabbat. He's a Torah observant Jew.
Yeah.
And he said, it's not just that I figured out a way around, my observance and to be able to be a senator, and he was picked by Al Gore to be his running mate. He could have been the vice president of the United States. It's not just I figured out a way to negotiate the two. It was because I'm an observant Jew that it helped me figure out how to behave in a certain kind of situation, how to fill, my political world with more meaning and purpose, and people are attracted to that. You see that in the Torah with Yosef, right? Yosef became number 2 in command next to Paro, and he never hid who he was Jewishly. In fact, Paro himself thought of himself as a god. The ancient pharaohs were worshipped as deities and gods, and he kept referring to the one and true God, which would have been a huge diss and a huge insult to a leader who calls himself a god. But it only caused Paro to respect Yosef more. And I feel that way sometimes when I meet successful people who are observant, who don't wear it on their sleeve, not showing it off, not just show I'm such a religious guy, I'm such a holy person, but are proud of their Judaism and understand that Torah offers a way to be more successful at life. Maybe not at being a boxing promoter or being a politician, but at life. And that makes, please.
What you say is beautiful, and I agree with everything that you said. And want to connect to the words of Senator Lieberman, because I feel 100% that has been true in my life, and he articulated it in a beautiful way, as a senator could.
Right.
So for sure, I think that being a Torah observant Jew makes you better, gives you the tools to be better at whatever talent, whatever place you choose to be in every aspect of life, for sure.
Cool.
So I say that it only garnished respect and understanding, and it's been great.
Awesome. And we mentioned before, and I think I mispronounced her first name. Her last name is Shields, who some say is the best female fighter of all time. What's her first name again? I'm so sorry.
So Clarissa Shields is a 2-time Olympic gold medalist, the only man or woman in the history of USA boxing to be a 2-time Olympic gold medalist. She's an undisputed middleweight champion, undisputed junior middleweight world champion, and a 3-division world champion. So she is the fastest person in the history of the sport, man or woman, to be a 3-division world champion. The only person ever to be a 2-division undisputed world champion in the 4-belt era.
Wow.
The first woman ever to headline a boxing card on premium cable network television, which was Showtime, and has gotten record-breaking numbers on television. And in every fight is just doing wonders inside the ring and outside the ring for women's rights, for equality, for women empowerment. She grew up in Flint, Michigan, which is one of the most challenging cities in the United States, and came from very difficult situation, and made the best of it, and is truly an American hero, a role model in every sense of the word. She is
wow. How did you that's incredible. How did you get to sign her?
So I read an article in Wall Street Journal in 2016, a couple of months before the Olympics. There was like a small mention of her, and I read about her, and I was like, man, this was before her second Olympic gold medals, which was in 2016. I think was it in London? No, it was in
2016.
No, it was in Brazil, I think, right?
Yeah, Brazil,
right. So I read this article about her amateur titles and her previous Olympic gold medal, where she's from and her life. I was like, man, this is the best boxer coming out of the Olympics. Man or woman, this is the best boxer coming out of the Olympics.
Wow.
And after each Olympic game, usually, the professional boxing scouts look at different boxers that they feel are going to have the potential to be world champions and approach them. And the one that caught my eye was Clarissa. So I contacted her manager, which is Mark Taffet, who was the head of HBO Pay-Per-View. And I fought on HBO Pay-Per-View as a fighter just several years prior to me contacting him. And told him about my vision, about what I thought would be right for her. And he liked it, and she liked it. And her first fight with me, she was the main event on Showtime at MGM Grand Detroit, which was also the first time that a boxing event was held at that venue. It was sold out. She made great money and got tremendous exposure. And after that, we signed a promotional agreement and have been together about 4 years now. And we just extended our deal for a couple more fights and a couple more years. So she's on her way to being a 2-sport star. She's fighting June 10th. She's going to be fighting on ESPN in her MMA debut. Shortly after that, we'll be announcing her next boxing fight. And she's really amazing. And folks should Google her to read about her and see some of her fights and read some of her interviews and see what she's all about. She's really a wonderful, amazing person, and is doing a lot, not only for women's fighting, for women's boxing, but also for women's sports, for women's empowerment. And she's mature and a real leader to understand her role in this environment. And this is really an amazing role model for girls, boys, women, and men around the world in the United States.
Wow, that's incredible. Why do you think there used to be a trend of Jewish boxers?
So I want to say Clarissa is one of over 50 fighters that we represent, including top heavyweights like Joe Miller, Otto Whalen.
Oh wow! I didn't realize.
So
now I was just asking about. I imagine most of them are not Jewish, or is that not true?
What's the question?
How many of your boxers are that you're representing now, Jews versus non-Jews? I'm just because I remember hearing when I grew up.
I don't represent any Jewish boxers.
Right. I mean, not by policy. There just aren't too many, right?
There aren't too many, and there aren't too many with the credentials that we look for.
Right.
There aren't any that I know, actually, at this point.
I mean, why did that trend stop? There used to be a lot more Jewish boxers back when. I mean, way before you came to this country.
Well, because Jews were immigrants and they didn't have an opportunity to make work because of anti-Semitism. They didn't have an opportunity to work different professions. And boxing, as sports has served, was a way for them to break out of their environment, break out of their life, and make it make some money and progress. But as you see, their kids didn't become boxers; they want to become educated folks. So what I want to say though, and I started talking about, is WBC World Boxing Council just named me the ambassador of boxing to Israel, to the Middle East, to the country of Israel. And we're talking with the government and with some boxing officials there to establish there is boxing there. There is some real talent, but it just needs infrastructure, needs certain training tools to be able to progress. And I feel that they can, and hopefully they will, and we'll have some very talented and champion boxers coming from Israel to a home near you in the near future.
Wow. All right. So you're bringing boxing to the Holy Land.
Hopefully.
Wow. Well, good luck with that. Was it hard to have a social life when you were a boxer? Or are you like when you're in training? I guess when you went pro, from being an amateur boxer to being pro, the only thing most people know about boxing, probably including myself, is the Rocky movies, which, by the way, I'm a huge fan of. I love the Rocky films, and it's like a certain intensity. And have you been able? Was that hard? Is that
so? As an amateur boxer, even though I wasn't a professional, I was a professional. I just didn't get paid. But I went to school and I trained all day, every day, and what I ate and how I rested and what I did was governed by boxing, by my boxing schedule. And certainly as a professional, I was very focused, very dedicated on being the best I could be, and spent my time training and resting and doing all the things I could to be the best I could be. So I even though I had, I started to get some notoriety, I guess, and certainly in New York City, I can't say that I lived a very what's the word I'm looking for? Rambunctious social life. My social life was the boxing gym and my Shabbos table.
I hear you.
Mostly.
Right. I mean, listen, thank God you had that balance with Shabbos in your life and Torah and mitzvot. That gives some balance. And was one of the reasons, I guess, you started your company. I mean, what is the average age when a boxer just stops boxing? Did you hit a certain age where you said, this is brutal, I can't do this anymore physically?
Well, physically and mentally, and and you start to you talk about social life, you start to kind of understand and appreciate other things in life, as you grow and as you mature, and that started happening, and certain responsibilities that I had to life that I felt were very important, and it just kind of dwindled out, and I promoted my first couple of fights for myself, and then I saw business in it, and I saw some great talents that I felt the other promoters, managers weren't seeing, and very happy that what I saw, like the first guy that I signed, was Jarrell Big Baby Miller. You may not know who he is, but maybe there's some folks that know boxing. He was the number 1 rated American heavyweight.
Oh, wow.
He was scheduled to fight Anthony Joshua June 1st, 2019 for a multi-million-dollar payday. But unfortunately, so the fight was signed and done and announced. We had a press conference in Madison Square Garden. Unfortunately, both fighters signed up for drug testing, and Jarrell failed the drug test. So the fight didn't happen. But I worked with him since his second professional fight to fighting in Madison Square Garden in front of millions of fans. This is the first fighter I signed. So I'm very happy that my vision and my ability to evaluate talent and to see their exposure and their potential, kind of paid off. And Jarrell was that guy that really made it from the beginning to the very highest level.
Wow.
Hopefully there's more to follow.
I'm sure. I mean, I assume it's a little less nerve-wracking being a promoter than a boxer yourself.
Different challenges, but
Right.
yes, I would agree. I mean, getting in the ring is the most difficult, challenging thing to do.
And you can have a little more of a personal life, family life.
Yes, for sure. Yes, and you can enjoy more things at the Shabbos table as well because you don't have to make weight.
Right, 100%. How do you like Detroit? And curious why you chose to live there.
I lived in Michigan because I had the family obligations that I had to go along with.
Right.
So, but we've established a boxing program in Michigan, and Clarissa is from Michigan. Jermaine Franklin, one of the top American heavyweights, coming up from Michigan. You make it work wherever you're at. So
it's a nice Jewish community. I used to do NCSY. I don't know if you're familiar with NCSY, National Conference Synagogue Youth, and we used to go to Detroit like once a year. It's a very you're involved in the Jewish community there in Detroit.
Yep,
it's great.
It is nice, and it's growing. I think after Corona, because it's more of a passive, more controlled lifestyle. I think there's been a lot of young families that have come in here. So, and great schools, and yeah, it is a very good growing community.
Yeah, nice Jewish schools and all that. I mean, and was it just one last question? We're going to close up in a second, but was it hard during Corona, during the pandemic? Like, I mean, obviously there were no more, matches and all that.
Extremely difficult. Obviously, boxing shut down. Fortunately, we have some fighters that are, top level that were able to fight on television. We actually did a UFC Fight Pass show at the Crown Boxing Gym in Detroit in August, and we had to get the state to allow us, to do it. And we had a bubble. We had everybody COVID tested.
Oh my gosh!
But one of the great things, and for boxing fans, one of the great things thinking outside the box during COVID is that I grew our YouTube channel, which gets 5-6 million views a month, and has some of the best fights and acquired.
Wow!
And during that period of time, being able to think about growing the business, acquired rights to some of the greatest fights in the sport of boxing, and some of them are on our YouTube channel, Salita Promotions, so folks can check it out and sign up and watch some videos. And but certainly, as I'm sure for everybody, Corona has been very challenging. And I think, one of the you and I are having a conversation now through this virtual room. But if Corona would never happen, this would not happen. We'd probably.
That's right. That's right.
So it makes life changed our ways of life and communicating with one another. And
for the better.
In some ways for the better.
100%.
Sure. Yeah.
And so first of all, I want to make sure everybody heard. So it's the YouTube channel is called Salita
Promotions.
Salita Promotions. Okay, guys. Yeah. Anyone's listening, Salita Promotions. Check out the YouTube channel for some amazing fights. Also, let me finish up with one question. That's actually a little promotion for something I'm doing. I'm writing a book. I'm writing my second book. I'm writing a second book. I'll send you my first one. I don't know if you ever read it, called Beyond the Instant. I got a lot of books behind me, but I don't. Oh, here it is. So first of all,
where do you live, Rabbi?
I live in New York City, on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. And 22 years ago, I started an organization called MJE. Manhattan Jewish Experience, which basically reaches out to unaffiliated or less affiliated Jews in their 20s and 30s, and try to bring them into the community, and also just increase people's knowledge and awareness of their Jewish identity.
Amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, we've had about 350 marriages that have happened through the organization, and lots of learning and Torah. We have a beautiful mini. What you tell us when you're in New York next? We'd love to host you. It'd be such
I'm in
an
New York
honor.
quite often. I was actually, I think I spoke for you guys maybe 12, 13 years ago.
You did a long time ago. I mean, you were in the thick of it. I remember. You were awesome.
Thanks. Thank you.
I remember the flyer that we used to promote your talk. You had like a silhouette of wearing tefillin.
Oh, is it? That I
It
don't
was
remember.
it was so cool. You had like your fists up like boxing, but you had like the tefillin. It was gorgeous. I
Okay.
loved it. I thought it was cool. So I wrote this book called Beyond the Instant: Jewish Wisdom for Lasting Happiness in a
Oh, beautiful.
Fast-Paced Social Media World, and it's basically 10 different lessons from the Torah about how to achieve happiness in a world where everything is so fast and social media driven. And it's a lot of Torah wisdom. I thought I would end just by asking you, my next book is really a preparatory book. And as a boxer, how much goes into preparation? My next book is going to be called The 40-Day Challenge. It's actually coming out in a couple of weeks. And there are these 40 days between Rosh Chodesh Elul, which is the day, and I have to read it in the book, a lot of very special things happen for the Jewish people in Rosh Chodesh Elul. And then the 40 days from that day till Yom Kippur. And that every single day there'll be a little entry for someone to read. Take them about 5-6 minutes just to read it. It's an insight from the Torah, and then a challenge question so that they could personalize that teaching to their own personal lives. And I'm doing it really because I feel that people just go into the high holidays expecting the high holidays to sort of do its magic. People just sort of show up. How important is it as a boxer, and as someone now promoting many boxers very successfully, is preparation?
You touch on such a great point, and I think that it touches on every facet of our life. I'm a big believer in small habits, and I feel that small habits that are done repeatedly become bigger habits and form success and productivity and positive thinking and throughout all areas of life. So preparation is very important. When I was younger, when I was training, I didn't even think about it. I didn't think about the fact that I have to wake up and run at 7 in the morning and do 40 minutes or whatever. It was just habitual to me. So, but like I didn't conscientiously think that it's a habit that I have to upkeep to be successful. I just did it because it was so ingrained in me. But later, as you grow older, and there's certain goals that you have, and sometimes you have to ingrain the habits to get to those goals, because they may be new activities, new ways of life, new ways of thinking. So I'm a big fan and participant in trying to form those habits and trying and believe in preparation. And that's what it is. Preparation is key to anything and to everything. It's not, if you want to use a boxing analogy, and it happens quite often, many times in the gym when I was a kid and older, you see these guys that are just so talented. They're just incredible. And they take it for granted and they don't work as hard. And because they're so talented, they're able to get to a certain level. But then at that level, they meet someone who's not as talented, but who foundationally put in the work every day for 10 years.
Wow.
And, the round 6 comes, and the guy that's very talented is out of gas, and his left arm is hurting him, and his mind is not strong because he's never been here, and he gives up, and the tough guy that doesn't have as many skills but is put in the work, gets the victory. So I'm foundation in business and personal things is so important. So I believe in it and love what this book is about, and would love to read it. So
Thank
if you
you.
can send me an autograph copy,
I
I'll be very happy.
100% I will do that, and I appreciate that analogy. It's probably why Rocky films were so successful, because here you had someone who had a lot of talent, but it was a lot of raw talent, but he prepared and he worked so hard. And then when you get to the big match, I guess that's Yom Kippur for us, you're prepared. You're in a certain spiritual place. And I feel so strongly that if we did more preparation, we would get so much more out of our Judaism. Just like you're saying, you do for that boxer who's maybe really talented but hasn't prepared as much, and he gets tired. His arm is hurting. It's his 6th round. But the guy who's been preparing has been plugging away, and I mean that makes all the difference. And I love what you said also about these. What did you say? Like these habits, these like daily habits. You don't even think about doing them. You just do them.
Right.
I mean, I do think that that's part of what mitzvot are about. Not that we should be mindless, but once we integrate certain, I always say, wake up in the morning, start your day, modeh ani lefanecha. I thank you, God. You start your day with gratitude. You wash your hands. You go recite the morning blessings. You're eating. You don't even think about it. You recite a blessing. But obviously, we should try to think about it. But those positive habits really develop us into the people we become. As intellectual as Judaism is, it's more, I think, a behavioral kind of approach, because Torah is mitzvah centered, and mitzvah are actions that we do on a regular daily basis to get ourselves to a certain place. So I think just the whole boxing, and also you see it with business also. I do a lot of fundraising. I see a certain trend with people who keep plugging away consistently, relentlessly. Dmitry, thank you so much for giving us your time. This was really, really amazing.
Thank you, Rabbi. I look forward to being in touch and look forward to reading your book.
Amen.
And looking forward to wishing you and your congregants a great summer, and hope to see you guys in a good COVID-free environment.
Please, God. And it's happening now. We're actually coming off of the masks this weekend. Very, very exciting.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for your time, and God should bless you with continued success for all you do. Really amazing work you're doing.
Thank you so much, Rabbi. And I'm gonna send you my number, and I look forward to staying in touch with you.
Okay, good. Yeah, let's do it. Let's be in touch, man.
Thanks, Rabbi.
All right, you too. Take care.